now is where we open it up for the next half hour. If you have any questions whatsoever about your strategy stuff, the business, the planning that we've gone through, anything I can help with whatsoever, I am happy to answer any questions. Just feel free to unmute yourself and we will just jump right in.
All right, Mike, I got one for you. I was on one of your onboarding calls here recently. I think it was earlier this week. Going into next year, we have all the trucks and equipment that we need. We have 4 trucks, but they were not used full capacity this year. So our goal for next year is to just max those out on capacity. We don't need to buy any more assets. We don't need to buy any more equipment. We just need additional labor hours on on the schedule. So the only thing that I think we'll really see our highest uptick in is going to be marketing spend.
So I'm going to say, yep.
Yeah. So last year we did 40,000. We had a higher customer acquisition cost. I dropped it down to 20,000. This year our acquisition costs ended up going down to about $85 per client. So now I know we have a little bit more room to spend in marketing now that we kind of fixed that issue, because the prior year we're at 250 per client. So
Mercy.
my that was agency spent. So we changed that. And kind of just dialed that more in. So my question is to next year, we're gonna end this year out probably around 620. Goal for next year is to be right around 850. I know it's like you had mentioned before, trying to be profitable and growing at the same time. Given that we already have the assets, we probably only have to spend about 20K more this year in marketing. Do you think we would be able to manage to be profitable and also grow?
Okay. What do you want from the business in like 3 years? Like if I could ask, like on your plan, like are you trying to go to 1 million? Or are you trying to stay around 8 to 850? What's like the 3 year vision?
The longer goal is 3 years to have an additional location. To get this one up and running for one GM and one admin person to run, and then to go and open up a second location once this first one has been, dialed in.
Okay, cool. So this is what I would do. Not necessarily saying this is what you should do, but this is what I
Sure.
would do. Um, I think that if you turned off all marketing, you'd still get 60 to 70% of your leads
Hmm.
coming in. And I believe that if you did that and then you raised prices on your existing customers, you'd be able to get to 7 to 750, but do so with a significantly, if not double, your profit margins. Um, and I genuinely believe that I would actually constrict capacity instead of growing to it. You're at the perfect size to be able to move into profit mode. And if you want to do multiple locations, there's no pride. Because this is what I'm afraid of, Shane, is you will grow
Hmm.
to 850, and then you're gonna go find try to find a general manager, and you will have been in growth mode for so long, you don't have enough margin to go hire a general manager. And
Hmm.
so what's going to happen at that point is you're going to keep growing. And you're like, okay, well, if I get to 1 million, like you get this treadmill. And in my opinion, from 800,000 to like 1.5 million, I don't see any additional profit in the business usually, because you need a second admin person, like a second overhead position. So if I
Hmm.
was you, like our locations at Augusta, we teach past 500,000 and then just optimize for profit up to 800,000. And
Hmm.
so I generally believe if you just turn off all marketing, you would probably get 60 to 70% of your leads. And if that's enough to replace churn and then have a little bit marginal above that, you then have the power to raise prices,
Hmm. So
right? Because go ahead.
I was anticipating raising prices. We're at $80 an hour. We're going to bring it up to $90 an hour, so about a 12% increase, which would then put us probably around 18% profit if we maintain our current numbers, overhead expenses, and where we're at now. So yeah, I was definitely going to raise prices going into this year.
Yeah. Personally, I would sell a truck. I would like get my capacity down. I would
Hmm.
make it a bit like how like I would imagine you have what 6 to 8 employees right
So
now.
we have 7. So yeah, right in the middle. So we got 6. We have 5 full timers and 2 part timers.
Yeah, like you can get a general manager to manage 6 to 8 people, and that general manager doesn't need as much skill as if you grow to 800,000, you're going to now have 9, 10 employees. That's going to strain a general manager. So because you're
Hmm.
optimizing for multiple locations, I recommend for the sake of keeping your overhead low and reducing the skill required for your GM, which opens up the pool of who you can hire as a GM, I like to keep it under 8 employees. So I
Hmm.
would like that seven employee marker, and then I just optimize for profit. Like I would
Yeah.
take all that money you're going to spend in marketing, like, okay, that's going to go in my pocket now. And now I'm just going to let go of one truck, I'm going to be immediately at capacity. So I'm going to be more profitable. Like the reason I'm so passionate about this, and I made the video about it recently in my content, is because I did this
Hmm.
in my location and we had our best November ever. We had $50,000 in profit in 1 month. I don't have that in November typically.
Hmm.
It was one of our lower months in terms of revenue, but I made $50,000 in profit.
Yeah.
So like, um, I'm very passionate about this because like we raised our prices from 80 to 100. I would go more than 90 because that's a 12% increase. I'd go at least 15%.
Hmm.
Especially if you have pent up demand. Like what was your what was your revenue last year? Like before 2024, what was 2023?
It was 515.
Okay, so you're growing
Hmm.
about 15 to 20% a year. I genuinely
Hmm.
believe that's being caused by the extra marketing spend. So if you don't market at all, I think you'll get enough leads to just fulfill churn. And if you can do that and then raise prices as you incrementally get more customers and you hit that capacity, I see you making more profit at that size than trying to get to 800,000, extending yourself, getting to 10, 11 employees, and then trying to find a general manager on a low margin business.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes
Does that
sense.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Right now we have a total of 5 trucks. We have 4 ramp racks and 1 landscaping truck. So we've been very underutilized, and insurance on those has been not fun to pay.
Yeah, honestly like let's say it's $1,000 you save per month by getting rid of a truck, and then I'm going to also save if you save 40,000, like that's $4,000 a month in marketing. Let's just call it $3,000 a month in marketing. Well, all of a sudden we need to make $4,000 of just overhead. Let's say we have a 15, 20% margin business. We need to make $20,000 more a month in revenue just to recoup that expense. So
Hmm.
$20,000, that's times that by 10, like that's $200,000. So yes, you're going to grow to 850,000 next year, and you'll make the exact same amount of profit if you just stay where you're currently at and optimized. But
Okay.
because your goal is multiple locations, I would highly recommend keeping it under 8 employees. I just see this over and over. It's just you grow the business to the point where you can't get a GM to take over.
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, we do have someone who's set and ready to take over that position. They're just relying
Cool.
on me to set things up for them. Last year with where we at, we had about a 45% close ratio on all of our estimates going out, at $80 a labor hour for mowing and then 100 for landscape and one-time projects.
Yep. Yeah. So if you raise prices, and we're able to extrapolate, let's just call it $2,000 to $3,000 more a month, just right off the rip, raising prices 15% at least. And then you were able to cut your marketing spend. You just paid for your general manager.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, appreciate it, Mike.
You got it, man. I know it's not sexy anymore to like say like don't stop growing, but man, when I see this over and over, and then I did it in both of my locations, it's like, oh, like this makes so much more sense. The general manager was able to take his first vacation since starting a year ago as general manager because he's
Mhm.
like, oh man, I have less employees, less trucks. We made a bunch of profit. Like this is so much better. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm all for just doing what's the best decision. I have no like romance. I'm like, hey, let's get this as big as we can. I was like, no, I just want, you know, create more employment opportunities for the guys on our team and create a lifestyle in which everyone on our team is, can enjoy being a part of.
good stuff. Thanks, Shane. Jacob, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. Okay. So I'm in like the same exact position. I'm a little over 600,000. I want to open a new location next year. Um, I made a, I hired an admin for this year and a general manager, and I'm wondering what are like the things I should focus on for them and like KPIs to track.
Yep. So are they both full time year round?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Are you working the business full time?
Yeah, I'm gonna focus on sales, marketing, and systems. It's my goal anyways,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Um, I'm going to guess that like cash is a little bit tight because you have three different overhead people working in a $600,000 business. Like, is it a problem or not really? Am I barking up the wrong tree here?
Uh, it hasn't really been.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually hasn't been too tight.
Okay.
But
All right.
next year I
So
am raising what I'm paying though, so I'm nervous about that.
okay. Yeah, because like as soon as you get out of the business, you're gonna see all the flaws, right? And so if you're gonna are you gonna start the second location next year?
No, so this year my goal is kind of just to simplify and like get ready to copy and paste, like find what's
Good,
most
good, good.
profitable and like yeah.
Yep.
And I figure
100%. I
because
would
like
be
this year,
recommending that.
okay, because this year I'm like, if I can just focus on sales and marketing, like beginning of last year, I was like creating all these SOPs and it wasn't working, but I realized I wasn't letting them take accountability. I was still jumping in, like doing the tasks. So I'm trying to like give the responsibility, but I also want to know like what to track, like so I know that they're doing a good job.
Yep. So what you're going to asking for an admin person is like, what are the things they actually move the needle for? And then how do I incentivize against that? It's like, what do you
Yeah.
want a good general manager to do? Well, I probably want them to take care of the team. Like if I'm not there, I need someone to take care of the team. Well, what does that look like? What's a measurement of success when it comes to taking care of the team? Usually it's efficiency score, right? It's the
Okay.
amount of budgeted hours in their clocked hours. So like efficiency score, you can track it inside Copilot, you can track inside pay for performance. That is a huge determining factor for me of whether or not a general manager is doing their job. I'm also going to be tracking if at your size, that general manager is likely going to be working in the field a little bit. Now, I'm going to have a
Yeah.
measurement around that. I'm going to have say, look, out of a 40-hour work week, I expect 30 budget hours worth of work to get done. Now, that number goes down 1 hour for every estimate you do that's in person. It goes down another hour for every interview you do in terms of hiring. But ultimately, I expect you, as a general manager, to complete 30 budget hours of work a week and then be able to tally and show me the estimates and interviews that were done to subtract from that. So if you have 10 estimates and 3 interviews, that's 30 minus 13. I still expect you to complete 17 budget hours worth of work on the dispatch board. And so this is
Okay.
going to be efficiency of the
So,
crew and efficiency of the general manager. That would be our measuring
oh,
for them.
okay. So I was planning on focusing on sales and marketing myself. So I would do the estimates, but we do landscaping and lawn care, but I was kind of hesitant. I wanted to set like a minimum for landscaping because I want to eliminate a lot of like the BS, like going and doing jobs that I don't know if it makes sense to go. Like I was thinking about setting like 800 as a minimum because I feel like to go and bid a $300 job, the amount of time it takes me to go bid it, where I can sit on my computer and bid 50, lawn mowing or weed control jobs. So I'm like, does it make sense to just set a minimum price, eliminate it completely? I feel like simplifying makes sense, but
Yeah, I think what you're trying to do is like simplify the sales position. Before I start setting arbitrary dollar amounts, because there are $600 cleanups that you can do in 2 or 3 hours with your crew and make good money and simple services. It's also a great way to upsell existing mowing customers into something and double their lifetime, their annual customer value by selling them a $600 or $700 cleanup when you otherwise only make $600 or $700 for the whole year of mowing, depending on your market.
like
Um, so
the fall
go
spring
ahead.
cleanups I'm all right with, but like anything I can't bid for my computer and I can't like systematize. Like there's certain just random cleanups where someone wants like a couple branches cut and a pile picked up, and it's like I have to go look at that, but it's only like a $200-300 job, and
Yeah,
I don't know
but
if it
you
makes
can create
sense.
systems around this, right? So for example, you can just have it where it's hey, if we don't do in-person estimates, you can submit a video. You can make a form
Okay.
where on the estimate request form, it's like, hey, if you want mowing, click here. And then as soon as they go to another thing, it's like, great, submit your video for your project. Right. So when our owners get busy, they have the option to basically make it where it's like they have a banner that basically says, hey, we're accepting mowing customers. If you would like a project, you got to submit your video here.
Okay, that
Because
makes
you're
sense.
basically just throttling. You're just throttling. Like you'd only do this if you have so many leads coming in, right? And so I would
Yeah.
just have different forms for different times of the year based upon what you're trying to prioritize. The same way that I would do the
Mm,
same thing with scheduling. Like a lot of these bigger projects, I would probably actually try to get them bid, even if it's remotely, and I'd be trying to schedule them in your off season, right? And you can be more price competitive during the winter too.
yeah. Okay. I'm worried too about if I can't, because like all the random landscaping jobs are hard to systematize. It's like, how do I ensure quality? Like mowing, weed control is very systematized. I can give a guys a training and they're good to go. But I guess all my callbacks are from these random jobs that they miss something, and there's so many little details. And that's why I was thinking about setting the minimum, because it's like for a $300 job, I've had so many callbacks, and I'm like, it's not paying that much, and I don't know. But
Yeah,
I
so
guess
a
the
system
actually
will
I've been
usually
doing
fix.
videos. And videos do work. Those do work for me.
Mhm.
If I send a video to the crew, that helps. So yeah,
Yeah,
so if the customer send a
when you be
video,
careful. Yeah, what you want to be careful of too is like are we fixing the problem, like the root problem, or are we just simply dealing with the symptoms, right? So callbacks, in my opinion, are a symptom of something else. Either a too complex service mix, a not enough standardization, in the service mix, and or a lack of systems around pay for performance. Because if they're incentivized to not have callbacks, they will have less callbacks. And so I would actually look at something like that. If you're doing simple service like a $300 cleanup, there should never be a callback because it's extremely simple usually. Like it's cut a few branches for crying out loud. So
Yeah.
usually that's actually a system failure, not actually a system that you need to make a system around it. It's like there's no pay for performance. They're incentivized to come back to the job site because they'd rather be in the truck driving back to do a callback than they would be doing more jobs. So like the incentive structure is now messed up. So I actually think the system failure happens because they're not like the downstream. It's a downstream effect of not having pay for performance.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I've been trying to do the pay for performance. I'm signing up for the software next year. I was doing it all myself. I made like through AppSheet and all this crazy stuff, but I'm just gonna get the software and yeah, focus on growing the business than trying to do software.
Stuff, dude. Good work. Alberto, go ahead.
Hi, Mike. I work with Nathan at Eagle Pro in Idaho.
Cool.
I just had a few questions. So, how much do you expect to make if you're in a business that it makes around $500,000 in revenue? How much do you expect to have in profit?
Yeah, so I define profit as the money that's left over after the owner has been paid a regular salary. Now, I like to think about distributable cash a little bit differently, but we'll talk about that. That's separate. So in terms of profit, like on a $500,000 business, I'm asking a couple things. First off, like what was the revenue last year?
It was about 100,000.
How much was it? 200,000, you said?
No, I think it was a little higher than that. Nathan, do you have that in mind?
The revenue for last year, it was like around like 260,000 or something. We could get you like specific, but we about like doubled our revenue or so.
Yeah. So basically, whenever I see a doubling of revenue, I almost immediately say, okay, this is in growth mode. We're not optimizing for profit. So what profit percentage should you be at? I don't know. You're growing. Like it's going to suck cash. You probably have to buy another truck. You probably had to burn through a few employees. You probably had a couple of really bad jobs happen because you doubled the size of the business, right? It's like Bug Hell and Copilot happened in 2024 because we tripled the size of the business in 2 months. And so if you're going to, double the size of the business, I'm not actually measuring profitability because you're not optimizing for it. You're optimizing for growth. Now, if you grew by 15 or 20% and you raise prices and you hit capacity, then I start actually benchmarking profitability. But you're optimizing for growth right now. So I would be much measuring your growth, and you did a great job. You grew over 100% year over year, and so I think it's a measure of risk because like you can artificially increase your revenue and your growth by just pumping all of your excess cash into the business. But you could also make it really, really profitable by simply not buying a truck, not buying stuff that you need for the business, like expendables at the end of the year. So that number gets really weird. I would say personally, what we try to do is once we hit over 500,000 in revenue, we are going into profit mode. And that's when I can start measuring this number. And we're trying to, over the course of 3 years in profit mode. And so talking like Jacob and Shane, like that size of business, we're going to take 3 years once we hit 500,000 to optimize profit, i.e. raise prices every time we hit capacity. We're going to do it for 3 years and get to 800,000 in annual revenue. And you're like, that's impossible. No, if you're charging $65 or $70 an hour and you raise your prices every single year by about 15% and you do that for 3 years, you will be at 800,000 in annual revenue. And our goal is at that point to be making $200,000 in net cash flow. So that's 25% margin. That's after 3 years of being in profit mode. So
okay, so what if it's
oh, sorry, go ahead, Nate.
So what if it's hard to measure what capacity is that when like literally 80% of all the work is done by contractors with all their own equipment and whatnot, and we can easily just add more contractors that can do part-time work?
There's still a level of capacity of how many contractors each of you can handle. So yes, like theoretically, the contractors can do more work, but there's a number of contractors until you break or you need another employee. And so you would want to be determining your personal and your. Have you gone through capacity-based growth, Nathan? You know what I'm talking about when I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Where
So
basically you just can't. Yep.
So instead of tracking budget hours, you're going to be tracking how much revenue can each of you manage before you need to hire another person. That would become your capacity. So to your point, if you're like, well, right now, I'm going to make up numbers. Let's say you're at 15 or 20 contractors and you say, well, technically we could probably handle 40 contractors before we need to hire another person. Well, then yes, you're way below capacity and you should stay in growth mode. because all your profits are from where you're at now until that point.
I have a follow-up
Okay.
question
Okay.
about Mike. So
Go ahead.
do you talked about 70 employees, and then you said you got about $500,000 under 8 employees. That's what you would be comfortable with before you actually open another site. So what do you use the input? Do you use contractors as well, or you simply just use the employees to do all the work? Like, what do you use the employees for?
Just employees. We don't do any contracting at my locations specifically.
Okay, just the employees. Okay. This is like full-time employees where you pay all the benefits and everything. Okay. And what did you put any thought, of whether to hire employees or do independent contractors, and what led you to choose employees versus independent contractors?
Yeah, I want to build a brand. And so if I'm having contractors go out there, that's putting that in jeopardy. That's really it. Yes, you can scale a subcontracting business. It's harder to build enterprise value because you do not control as much of the business. I'm not against it. Like, you can absolutely crush it in subcontracting. And I obviously was with Nathan, and like we talked about this. Like, you can crush it. You can make a lot of cash flow. It's just not something I'm interested in terms of brand or the ability to copy and paste this, because it's very, very individualized to finding good contractors. It's easier for me to find good employees and create a system around that than finding good contractors in different markets. But it's scalable. Like, it's just a different business model. So it's not wrong. Please don't take it as that.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, well, that answers our question, Mike, regarding just hitting max capacity with what we can actually manage. So that definitely 100% answers it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just change
Yeah, you're a legend.
your personal and your labor capacity essentially would just become, instead of budgeted hours, it become number of contractors.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
Yeah,
revenue.
sweet.
Even
Hey.
revenue might be a better benchmark on that. So
Yeah.
sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
hey, you're a legend, Mike, and we appreciated you big time for coming down. So thank you.
You got it, dude. Absolutely.
I wanted to figure out how much I need to spend in marketing to hit my revenue goal next year. Like, how do I figure this number out?
Okay, what would you make in revenue in 2024?
300,000.
Cool. And what's your target for 2025?
Double that, so 600.
Okay. And if you don't mind me asking, how much cash on hand do you have?
50,000.
Okay, cool. Do you know what your customer acquisition cost is, or that's kind of like you would guess, but you don't actually really know?
Yeah, so the last time I checked, it was $35.
Okay, and is that during spring rush? Is that a blended average across the year, or is that for a specific service?
I don't remember what it was in the spring. I think it was more expensive in the spring. But I checked. I think last time
Like,
was in August.
what'd you spend in
September.
marketing? What'd you spend in marketing this year? Like, total?
It was between like 10 and 11,000.
Okay, and what was your revenue in 2023?
Yeah, it was 180,000.
Cool. So 180,000, and then this year we did 300,000. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. So we can do this. This becomes a math problem. So we increased revenue by $120,000 in revenue. You spent $11,000 in marketing. Assuming you do not get any better at marketing, you will need to spend you're getting about 11x on your marketing spend, which means if you spend $1, you're getting about $11 back. So what that means, if you're trying to grow by $300,000, you will have to spend approximately $30,000 in marketing. Now, do I think you need to spend $30,000 in marketing in order to go from 300,000 to 600,000? No, I don't. I also think that your customer acquisition cost is higher than that $35 marker, because if you spent $11,000 on marketing and you had a $35 customer acquisition cost, you would have had 315 new customers. Right. And so unless you have really, really low pricing, I doubt that's the case. So I would probably, if I was you, Caleb, I would probably look, okay, how many new customers did I get? And then I would actually figure out what is my customer acquisition cost. And you could probably work that way. But assuming you did no better in marketing, like you don't change anything and you don't take any sort of courses or watch the content, etc. I think you would probably need $30,000 to do that.